Welcome residents of Strathroy-Caradoc. It's Chief Mark Campbell with the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce and bring the community members up to speed on some of the latest areas that the local police service is looking after while we're working our way through COVID-19 and the related pandemic. Most community members are aware there was an emergency declaration made on March 17th by the provincial government, and it actually was the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act that was enacted. With that, there were some emergency orders that has restricted certain activities and businesses from being able to stay open. So I wanted to speak a little bit about some of those orders. Again, the first orders talked about limiting and closing restaurants and parks, recreational facilities. In addition to that, there has been subsequent orders where they've talked about identifying essential services, those that can be open. As a police service in our community, we certainly do get lots of different calls from community members reporting and showing concerns regarding possible breaches of those orders. As a police service, we will respond to any and all calls for service. Our priority is to provide education to a community member or a business to ensure that they understand what the order specifically states and how they can be in compliance. We are not looking to, and provincially, they are not seeking or looking for police services or by law enforcement to start engaging in issuing tickets under the Provincial Offences Act. We want businesses, we want community members to understand the significance of the COVID-19 issues. And again, the emergency orders are again meant to help community members be in compliance so that we can stop and slow the spread of this virus. That being said, if there is a need to engage in enforcement, I want community members to understand some of the penalties that could be applied. So I'm going to identify a couple of the offenses, the first being failed to comply with an order made during a declared emergency. It has a $750 fine. A second offense could be obstruct any person exercising a power in accordance with an order made during a declared emergency. That fine carries a total of $1,000. They are hefty fines, but again, it's all about understanding the impact that a person, a business, is having in helping slow and stop the spread of the virus. So we really strongly encourage community members to be aware of what the orders are and to be in compliance with those orders. A second act I want to sort of mention, and this one probably isn't as applicable, at least we certainly haven't seen any instances, and this is regarding the Quarantine Act. So on March 25th, the Government of Canada implemented an order minimizing the risk of exposure to COVID-19. The objective of this order is to minimize the travel-related risk of introduction and spread of COVID-19. The order requires all persons who enter Canada, whether by air, land, rail, or sea, to isolate for 14 days from the day upon which they entered Canada. And this order is in effect from March 25th, 2020 to June 30th, 2020. The direction being provided for symptomatic travelers includes they must go directly to their place where they will isolate and stay there for 14 days. Use private transportation only, no travel on public transit. Stay inside their home. Not leave their place of isolation unless absolutely necessary. For example, to seek medical attention. not to have visitors and limit contact with others in the place of isolation, including children, and not isolate in a place where they will have contact with vulnerable people, such as older adults and individuals with underlying medical conditions. Again, much like the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, police are going to be called upon to investigate and determine if there is a violation of the Quarantine Act. Despite the unique and unprecedented nature of the COVID-19 pandemic, the rule of law and the fundamental principles of police independence and discretion are not altered. Those principles will still apply as we investigate Quarantine Act concerns. When we receive a complaint of such a breach, we will consider the following depending on how the situation is. Education, speak to the person and inform them of the law under the mandatory isolation order. Encouragement, speak to the person and give an official warning to ensure compliance. Mandate isolation by working with public health officials. And enforcement and arrest under the most unique and last case sort of scenarios. I want to thank the public for their participation and general adherence to the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act orders and the quarantine order. And we hope that as we all work together, that we will flatten the curve and put an end and come to an end for this pandemic. Thank you for your time.